The perfect resume. So if you are creating your resume, if you're a first-time job seeker, or you're someone who already has your resume and you are trying to adapt it to the job market of 2025, because some things have changed in the last few years. You know, people always say that. People say that every year. You know, all things have changed and you need to get with the times and update everything. That's usually BS. But I got to admit, in the last couple of years, ever since AI started coming out, it is a bit of a gear shift. There are things that have changed in a significant way for job seekers. And before that, it was the rise of ATS systems, which sort of really started coming in full steam 5 years ago. Like, they were around before that, but 5 years ago, they really became ubiquitous. You know, you could just assume that any recruiter or any company you sent in your resume to or your application, they were putting you through applicant tracking software, and that would filter your application, at least in the initial round. So that came in about 5 years ago. And because of that, people have had to adapt to it to, for want of a better word, get around it. And now the latest shift has been AI. AI is being used more and more in recruitment and selection on both the candidate side and on the company side. So that's another shift that's coming in. And the situation now is basically that, I've had it on good authority that approximately 50% of job candidates are using AI when it comes to their job search campaign. So creating resumes, helping them interview, all that kind of stuff. They're using it in a variety of ways. Probably the easiest way to get into using AI is to create your resume or update your resume. So we're at a point now where, about 50% of people are using it, 50% of people aren't. And the ones who are using it really do have quite a bit of an edge when it comes to certainly applying for worker level jobs, and you are sending in applications in response to posted jobs. Okay, so that's what we're seeing now. John is here. Hello to John. John says, been out of interviewing for a while. Hope to see what is current here. Yeah, that's basically the overview of it. Basically adapting to ATS systems first and now to AI. So that's what we're going to get into. So let's launch into this. The perfect resume. Okay, let's see here. Now, for those of you who are just starting off, I'm going to start at the beginning. I'm just going to do a very, very quick sort of overview of the basics here, and then we're going to get into a little bit more advanced stuff. I'm just trying to open a browser window so that I can share my screen with you guys. How would I do this? I'm going to use Chrome, and I got a selection of 3 browsers to choose from here. So I'm going to use Chrome, which is my default browser, and we're going to go from there. Now, there are traditionally 3 types of resumes, okay? The chronological resume, the functional resume, and then the hybrid resume, which is like 50-50, halfway between both of those. And the vast majority of people use a chronological resume. That's where you write all your work experience, oh God. It's hard to concentrate on 2 things at once. Let me tell you, I'm trying to deal with my browser and I'm trying to talk to you guys at the same time, and I'm doing a terrible job of both. Here we go. Okay, I'm just going to share my screen and then you guys can see what the hell I'm doing here. Okay, so now you can do this in Google, you could do it at any search engine. I am intentionally going to Bing, don't laugh, because Bing is good for a couple of things. And one of them that it's good for, here we go, Bing Images, is the image search. At least in the last several years, it's been superior in a couple of ways, in my opinion, to Google. Now, I'm going to type in resume example. Okay, you can type in a lot of other things, okay, permutations of this. But I don't know if you saw what I did there. I don't know if there's any way to maximize this. I guess not. But that's a shame. Here we go. So what you can do is if you're just creating a resume and you want to get a sort of overview of like all the different styles and what's possible to do, this is a good sort of way of doing that. Let's see if I can adjust my positioning. There we go. So here are some examples. Now you can see that a lot of people do resumes that have very fancy layouts. You've got, like in this case, all kinds of, bar charts and graphical type things going on. Lots of different text boxes and more, fancier layouts. Some people have pictures, some people don't. The jury's out on whether you need a picture or not, or you should put one. It can count against you, but then it can count for you. So, depending who you talk to, they'll recommend that you do a picture or not. But I'm doing this to basically show you that there's not really one standard layout or style. Many people do many things. And in this day and age, when people have to go through applicant tracking software on the other end, generally the rule is simpler is better, okay? So if you remember what resumes looked like 30 years ago, or you've seen what resumes looked like 30 years ago, everything was in Times New Roman, everything was very, like in one sort of column down the middle of the page. That still works, that's fine. The style doesn't really matter too much, and sometimes a very busy style can take away from the ease of reading your resume if a human actually looks at it. Okay, so don't be afraid to have a sort of very Spartan, kind of bare resume in terms of the format and the style. That's fine. What we want to do is we want certain things to pop out on our resume, so you can glance at your resume and you can immediately think, I got the key points. Like, for example, I'm scrolling through these. Now, imagine you were a recruiter and you only had, say, 5 seconds to glance at a resume because you have 1,000 resumes on your desk, figuratively speaking, right? What pops out in this resume? Maybe experience, life philosophy, their name, and then you move on to the next one. Is that good enough? Like this one here, profile, internship, the name, work experience. Is that what should be popping out to you, do you think? I would say not. If it's important, it should be prominent, okay? That's the first point I want to convey. This is more of what I was talking about with a simpler resume format. You don't have it divided vertically into different columns, like some over here, some down here. It's all just one. It's divided horizontally and you have different sections. This is probably good for the vast majority of resumes out there, especially if you're going for posted jobs, okay? As opposed to something like this. Nothing wrong with this. It's just that this is a bit busier. And if this goes through an ATS system, there's a higher likelihood that it will have issues analyzing this because you've got different text boxes, all over the page, and that may create complications. Same with graphics. If you have a lot of graphics, they're great for like management type resumes and executive type resumes. Absolutely wonderful. But they work against you for pretty much every other situation. So the simpler, the better. Okay. Hopefully I have convinced you of that. And I've shown you a lot of different possibilities here. Something like this. Personally, I would recommend something more like this, a bit simpler, a bit more basic. There's some weirdness going on down here with like different columns and things, but just this general layout is usually good. Okay. Now that we've got that out of the way. So if you're looking for like ideas, the kind of things you could put on a resume, you can always do what I just did. You go to Bing or to Google, you go to images, like doing an image search, and you type in resume examples or sample resumes or resume template, something like that. And then you start going through the image results, okay? That can give you a lot of ideas very quickly. And you quickly learn that it's not that picky. You can do a lot of different things, okay? Now, let's move on to something that is relatively new. It's always been around, but in the last certainly 5 years, this has really come to the forefront, and that's keyword matching, okay? Now, The problem is that there's a lot of things out in the real world, as you guys know, that it doesn't have a standard term for it, okay? The classic example I always use is even in something like accounting, which is regulated, you would think that they'd have industry standard terms across the board. No, they kind of don't. Sometimes they talk about profit, sometimes they talk about net income, right? The two things essentially mean the same, but we keep changing the lingo. So, for example, if there was a job posting and said, we're looking for someone who knows how to make a profit, and you respond saying, you should hire me because I know how to make net income, the problem is that if a machine scans this application of yours and it's told that it has to try and separate out the candidates that say that they know how to make a profit, because that's the lingo that was used in the job description. If your thing doesn't mention the word profit, instead it uses the term net income, it thinks that you're a non-starter. It rejects you because it doesn't see that magic word profit, right? This is the problem. We need to use their own lingo to describe what we do, right? If you want to pass these types of filters, right? And today, if you're going for posted jobs, these filters are pretty much almost universally in place. So you need to use their lingo, okay? This is where the power of AI comes in, because you could do this manually. You could go through your resume and you could rewrite your resume manually, changing all your lingo to their lingo that they used in the job description. But that's pretty labor intensive, and that might be pretty hard to do if you're applying for more than one job a day, right? So this is where the power of AI comes in, okay? Now, keyword matching is very important. The problem that's arisen the last several years is that it is so easy to apply for jobs on the internet. People can apply for hundreds of jobs a day, literally, okay? If you have like one resume that you just send in to every job that you find, you can apply for hundreds and hundreds of jobs a day. And there are people that do this. And I think the idea that they think that couldn't hurt to try, right? And if you do that hundreds and hundreds of times every day, maybe you'll get a bite. Now, usually that doesn't work. Usually the problem is that each job that's posted online tends to get a lot of applicants. We're talking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of applicants. The problem is that usually about 50% of those applicants, those applications, are completely unsuitable. It's a total non-starter. Someone doesn't have the most basic requirements for the job that were stated in the job description, right? So recruiters on the other end are being inundated with all kinds of applications, and how do you filter 1,000 applications? If you have to do that every day, you know what I mean? That's what they're dealing with on the other end. This is why they love ATS software, because it filters out 80% of them before it even gets to you, because it says, well, we scanned the applicant's resume for keywords and none of the keywords we said we needed were in there. So why persist with this? Just eliminate it, right? So this is the importance of keyword matching. So what it means is that to stand the best chance and stand a fighting chance sometimes, you have to rewrite your resume to suit their job description. So the things they said they're looking for, you should have them on your resume. They should be pretty prominent, so even if a human looks at it, they pop out, right? You can make the word big, you can highlight it, whatever. And also, if it goes through ATS, you're giving it the keywords it needs to get past that filter. So if it's looking for profit and it's looking for a couple other things, you have those words on your resume. They're pretty prominent, they're towards the top, and that's what it needs to sort of filter you through that initial screening so that you can get to the point where you're being examined by a human. A human is looking at your resume and deciding whether they're going to bring you in for an interview. Okay, so keyword matching is very important. I can't stress that enough. In the old days before the internet really took off, it wasn't quite as important if you said, I have net income, instead of profit. It would be looked at by a person. Usually the person had some basic accounting knowledge, so they'd understand that term means the same thing. But not in this day and age. You need to use their lingo, and you need to have all those words in your resume for it to get past the filters. Okay, next thing is, this is where we get to a little bit more sophistication. Okay, you've got a resume and it has the keywords in it that the lingo in it that they've been using in the job posting, and the things they said under requirements. We need someone who has this. You're using those terms and you're making those prominent in your resume or your application, and that's probably going to get you through the filter. Now, what can you do beyond that? This is where we get into things like accomplishments. I don't know if I can do a screen share for accomplishments. Probably not. No, I haven't gone ahead and tried a bunch of stuff, so I'm not going to try it live. What you can do on a resume is usually if you're describing your work history, you're going to have obviously the positions you've held, maybe the dates you've held them, right? What your job title is. And then the default thing that people put in there are your duties. What you did, right? I answered phones. I did projects on this. I took care of work orders. I locked up the store at the end of the day, whatever, right? Those are duties. Great. Okay. What's really good to have on a resume is more than just that. You would have accomplishments. Now, accomplishments are a little bit different. They're things that are quantifiable, which means numbers. And traditionally, the two ways you would quantify an accomplishment is either in terms of percentage or currency, right? So for example, an accomplishment could be something like, I led a project that saved the company $340,000 over the course of a fiscal year. Something like that. So you got the money in there and you said, I did this. This is what I did. And it had this impact. It saved $340,000 in a fiscal year. Another thing you can put is percentage. You could say, I implemented some efficiency improvements to our local operation, which resulted in a performance gain of 17%. We processed 17% more work orders in a day. Something like that, right? So you're saying, I did this, and this is the impact it had. It resulted in a 17% increase in the number of work orders we produce every day. Something like that, okay? So you have an accomplishment, this is what I did, and you have its impact. Now, the whole point of this is illustrating if you've done this for one company or one organization, if someone hires you, this is the type of thing that you could do for them, right? This is part of your value. So it's also great to pull from this when they ask you in a job interview, why should we hire you? What are your strengths? Things like this. You say, well, I know how to implement improvements to operations like these, where I can get you a 17% efficiency gain. Just within a couple of weeks, I could have you processing 20% more work orders, something like that. I've done it before. I can do it again. Things like this. So those are good to have on your resume. Now, some people debate, should you have duties or accomplishments? I say you should have 50-50. Have a few duties and then have a couple of accomplishments for every position that you list on there, generally speaking. That can vary, but that's kind of the general rule. They're conversation pieces in interviews. They show your value, and there's something that's unique to you as opposed to other people that might have been in the same job and they have the same experience, but they won't have the accomplishments you have. So that gives you a bit of a unique edge. And let's face it, you're competing with other people for this job. There's other candidates. So this is where this stuff matters. Okay. Now, how do you go about doing this? The last part of this I want to talk about is AI tools. Now, I'm just going to see if I can pull up like ChatGPT or something, just so I can demonstrate what the hell I'm talking about here, instead of just talking with no end in sight. Let's see. Sorry about this. I really should have done this preparation ahead of time. But here we go. I'll do it with two windows here. Okay, so for those of you who haven't used ChatGPT ever, okay, this is what it looks like, right? Okay, now it looks like a search box, just like Google, right? And you can use it just like you would use Google. You could type in like, tell me about this, right? So it can do that. But in addition, it's like a fancy version of autocomplete. So one extremely powerful thing that ChatGPT has, and some of these other AI tools have, is that you can include in this prompt, like you would think in this box, you could only type like, I don't know, 20 words or something. No, you can type thousands of words into this box. In fact, you can actually copy and paste the entire text of your resume into this box. So what you could say is you could say, something like, please rewrite. I mean, it's silly because I'm not going to put in my resume here. But you know what? If I had planned this out further, we could take one of those resumes that I found on the search results, copy the text, and paste it in here. And you could say, please rewrite my resume. Here is the text enclosed, and put it in quotes. Let's just see what we can do here. Please write me a sample resume for a project manager in, I've never done this before, in construction. It's hard to type when you got this massive microphone right in the center of your keyboard here. Let's see what it says here. Here you go. You see how easy this is? Now, obviously, this is all crap data, right? Like, none of this is me. I've just said, write me a sample thing, right? But you see how it can just spit this kind of thing out? Now, what you can do then is I've got this search box here down at the bottom of the page, right? What I can do now is I can copy the entire text of a job posting, okay? So I go online, I find a job posting that I want to apply for, and I copy the entire text of the job posting. Okay, I highlight it and say copy, and then I go over to ChatGPT, and then I say, please rewrite my resume so that it is tailored to this specific job, and that you include the entire text string of the job posting, in quotes usually, okay? And then within the same command, you're still in the same box before you hit enter, you say, please match keywords. Please make sure that the requirements that they are looking for are prominently featured in my resume, something like that. And then you say enter. And what it's going to do is it's going to spit out another version of this, okay, that will be more tailored to that job. The keywords are going to line up. It's using their lingo, right? And you can add these little wants, wills, and needs to your command to customize it, right? So hopefully you're with me so far. I'm sorry I can't demonstrate the entire process in front of you, but we're going to take this one step further, okay? And the final thing we're going to do is we're going to not just add the text of the job posting, we're going to add the entire text of our resume. So you're giving it two things. You're giving it your entire resume, and then you're giving it the entire job posting you're applying for. And then you're saying, please rewrite my resume so that it matches, it's a perfect match for this job, using all the right keywords, having them prominently featured, using all their lingo in describing things, and remove anything from my resume that they don't mention at all in the job posting, something like that. So there's no dilution of what you have. And then it spits out this business again, right? And then what you do is you grab this, okay, like the basic way to do it is you just grab the whole thing, paste it into a Word document, there you go. And there is a custom-built resume that's a version of your resume that's perfectly tailored to the job you're applying for. It's got all the keywords in. It's got all the things that they said they were looking for featured prominently in the resume. They're all up top. They're all talked about in more detail, right? And you're removing anything that you have that they've shown absolutely no interest in. They don't consider it important. So you don't fill up your resume with all this stuff that they don't consider important. You get straight to the point and you look like a perfect match. Okay? That's the kind of thing that you can do with some of these AI tools. Now, ChatGPT is kind of like everybody's entry into AI, right? There are other tools out there. The name escapes me at the moment. You know what? I'm going to ask ChatGPT right here, just to show you how useful this thing is. Watch, this is when it gives me a false answer or something. But I'm going to have to move my microphone just for a second here. Okay. Okay. What are some useful AI tools to help me write my resume? You love my writing? Okay, because there's one resume. It wasn't these. There was another one I was thinking of. JobScan, I believe that was it. That's the one that I've heard of. That's the one I know other people are using. So this is like a version. It's almost like a proprietary version of ChatGPT where it just does resumes and resumes only. So you go to a website and it'll custom build your resume using AI, similar to what I showed you, but it's just specifically tailored to AI. So check that out. That might be of some use to you. I don't have a lot of experience using it myself, but I'm aware of it. So anyway, hopefully this gives you an idea of what you can do now to write a resume that will be relevant now to get past some of the ATS software that you might be contending with when you go for a posted job. Ba-dum-bum. And that's what I have to say about that.